Harry's Wife, part 68.4. The wife writes more? With a skip and a jump, we make our way to Newsweek, and an article by Jack Royston reveals Harry's wife could follow Prince Harry in writing tell-all memoir. An understandable reaction there from the minions who are crowded around my desk as I provide you with this latest slice of delightful, educated entertainment. The article explains Harry's wife could write a fascinating memoir if the Sussexes decide to follow in the Obama's footsteps with his and hers autobiographies, an expert tells Newsweek. Well, I'd have to suggest that the expert isn't an expert if they think any memoir of Harry's wife would be fascinating. First of all, so much of it would be revised history. She could not help that. She would not sit down and actively write lies, but that was what would happen because her narcissism would compel this to occur through the necessity of the assertion of control. Where she recalls particular events, it will be recalled through her prism of narcissism, and therefore, where there was an incident which caused a threat to her control, her narcissism will invariably cause her to remember facts in a particular way so as to enable her to assert control through that revision of history. That she will play the victim, dole out pity plays, be provocative, make out that she was the one that was always hard done to. So first of all, any memoir that she could write would be of questionable provenance because of it being seen through the lens of her narcissism. Moreover, fascinating, she's a boring, dull individual. And whilst I know there are those of the shuggers who ask and claim that I'm obsessed with her, I'm not. It might be the case that I could be said to be obsessed with teaching you about narcissism, and that would perhaps be justifiable, because that is what I'm seeking to do, to enable you to understand narcissism through this prominent example that I am conveying to you by using this series and all of the other hundreds of videos that I have created about narcissism, which I encourage you to access so you will learn more about it, not just in relation to Harry's wife, so that you actually understand how it is that the way that my kind actually behave and think. That you're not, for instance, duped by the idiots that publish information and make videos where it's incomplete, misleading, and in some cases downright dangerous. That you don't fall prey to the unaware mid-range narcissists regurgitating incorrect information about narcissism and then adding to it with their own grandiosity, thinking that they're empaths when they're not actually. All of that material must be avoided, and it's incumbent upon you to not only avoid it, but to ensure that others do so as well. And that's why, if I have any obsession, it is with countering the misinformation that's out there, because of course it amounts to a threat to my control. And therefore I assert control by the creation of my videos that tell you correctly what narcissism is about, and by utilising Harry's wife as an example. My work is what you call fascinating because it gives you an in-depth look at something that ordinarily you wouldn't have access to. I'm able to tell you all about it because of the way that my narcissism is evolved, that I have this level of awareness, and allied with my vast intellect, enables me to explain it to you in a way that you can understand. It also doesn't threaten my control by telling you all of this, because you don't know who I am. I would never, ever do this with regard to individuals that knew me in my private life. I would not tell them all of the ins and outs of the way that I operate and I behave. I certainly wouldn't tell them what I want, what I am, how I behave, how I operate, as that would be a transference of power and would not be in my interests. But with you, dear viewers, I am able to do so. The article continues, the Duchess of Sussex has a great story to tell. And the world's very interested. Is it? Some of it is. Some of the world's interested because they lap it up, sugars that they are. Some of the world's interested purely to know what utter shitfest would be generated by this memoir. The rest of the world would just wish that she would go away, that she would somehow fall down one of the 27,000 toilets at the mansion at Montecchio and be flushed away, never to be seen again, or perhaps eking out some kind of existence in the sewer systems beneath Los Angeles. The Duchess of Sussex has a great story to tell and the world's very interested, according to Professor Jonathan Shalit, founder of UK-based Intertalent Rights Group. His comments come after Prince Harry this week announced he is writing a book due for release at the end of 2022 by Penguin Random House. Much of the couple's post-royal lives appear to echo the Obamas' character trait acquisition and mirroring, as both couples are signed up as guest speakers with Harry Walker Agency and both have set up TV companies with Netflix deals. However, the Obamas have written separate memoirs, Michelle's titled Becoming and Barack's called A Promised Land through Crown, an imprint of the same publishing house Harry has signed up. Shalit told Newsweek, "I think the world's very interested in their story. I think somebody has a vested interest, the way that he's trying to drum up interest in this absolute farrago of uninteresting material that nobody really could seriously want to take any interest in. I woke up and I reminded myself of what a brilliant author I am, so I penned another book, The Bench 2. I then ate breakfast and reminded myself of inclusivity and how fortunate we are all together to live in this community of organic authenticity. I wondered where Harry was. I became annoyed and then realised that he was probably still hiding in the chicken coop after yesterday's altercation, where he very foolishly asked me if I still loved him." This story would be dull. In fact, what would be far more interesting would be to parody their lives, demonstrating what's really going on either through the narcissistic prism or just quite simply taking the piss out of the very many entertaining missteps and ludicrous examples of hypocrisy that exist. Mr. Shalit continues, "I think the world's very interested in their story, so I think there could be a Harry's wife's memoir, but I suspect much of Harry's story will include Harry's wife's story." You better your fucking boots it will, because she's writing it, matey boy. Come on, wake up. They've become intertwined. Yes, they have. She has subsumed, absorbed, assimilated Prince Harry of Ginger, bolting him on, attaching him to her, acquiring character traits, gaining those residual benefits. And his story not only is her story because obviously the two of them have been in a relationship for a number of years, but his story is her story because she'll be telling him what to write. She'll be dictating the narrative to him because that's what she's been doing for quite some time. And he can't tell. Mr. Shalit continues, "Harry's wife's got a great story to tell." Bullshit. She's obviously a very successful actress. Where does this guy come from, thinking she's a very successful actress, being in D-list suits that nobody'd really heard of? And loved by many people around the world. Well, she is loved by some people around the world, the Sachereans who aren't able to string a sentence together, who have more recently cropped in the comments section. My videos must be reaching out even further than before for them to come crawling in like the cockroaches they are. But worry not, valuable and sensible readers, they'll always be swatted with the firm stick of evidence, the cane of logic. Their misguided rants of, "You don't know her," and "Leave them alone," fall, crash against the edifice that is HG. I merely use them as an example of their stupidity and the ability of non-evidence-based thinking. I always encourage you, dear viewers, when it comes to dealing with the narcissist, always go to the evidence. It's huge and important. It preserves your sanity and enables success. And I go into this in more detail with people through my consultations. The only people that love her are those that have been taken in by the facade, those that perhaps are transplanting their own desires to become a princess themselves by thinking that she is one of them. She isn't. Many of these people who believe that she's on their side have no idea that she doesn't give a rat's ass about them, that she doesn't give an absolute fucking fig about who they are, other than the fact that they are tertiary source appliances that provide some fuel and cater to the facade. She would not piss on them if they were on fire. She wouldn't even wipe her shoes upon them. They are that low down, but they don't realise it. And they're conned by all this talk of authenticity, of being a woman of colour, and so on and so forth. The article continues, "The Obamas would be very good people to take advice from. They've set exemplary standards around the world." Well, Narcissism abounds there also, but is far more sophisticated and far more calculated. So if the Obamas are advising them, I think they're getting advice from some very wise people, i.e. some very calculating and savvy individuals. Harry's memoirs was announced on Tuesday after it was leaked to the New York Post, who splashed the story across the front page. Eric Schiffer, chairman of Reputation Management Consultants, told Newsweek he believed Harry's wife would want to pursue her own memoir. Well, of course she does. First of all, it would allow the assertion of control through some mind-numbing words printed on a page by her. It would also allow the drawing of fuel as a consequence of reactions, both good and bad, to what no doubt would be an absolutely turgid tome of complete mind-numbing banality. Furthermore, it would allow residual benefits, facade management, and, of course, filthy lucre. Mr. Schiffer said, I think the strategic plan is to have them each write separate books. They'll monetize at a higher level, residual benefit, and you can even see at some point a combined book. Oh, good Lord, could you imagine that? One page is crayon, and the other page will be potato prints. And then even trump the Obamas altogether about their individual experiences in some kind of interesting modern fashion that would appeal to young people. That is thought to appeal to young people who are being similarly duped. If Harry's wife does choose to write her own memoir, she would likely face a backlash in Britain, quite rightly, as with much of what the Sussexes do publicly. However, she will also have supporters on both sides of the Atlantic eager for more detail on the experiences she shared, or rather, that she dredged up in their interview with Oprah Winfrey in March. UK race equality and women's rights activist Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu wrote on Twitter, "The day Harry's wife writes her memoir, there'll be fire on the mountain. Haters will run, run, run." No, they won't. And whilst she does have her haters, actually the majority of people find her very tiring, oversaturated, and are bored of her. They don't actually hate her, they find her boring, annoying, and ubiquitous. Then there are others that dislike her, not because it's anything to do with her colour or the fact that she's female, but to do with the fact that she is a narcissist, and it's her behaviours that they hate, not her. But Dr. Shola, unaware of what she is this person a real doctor? Writing such things as there'll be fire on the mountain and haters will run, 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 flame emoji, flame emoji, flame emoji. Maybe, maybe not. But this shows an inability to understand what she actually is, and also the fact that the haters won't run, run, run. In actual fact, what they will do is, the ones that do hate her and are racist, and they do exist, will just see it as more grist to the mill and continue to hate. Then the other people, the larger group, that are bored of her and find her tedious and see it just all as self-serving publicity, not linked to recognising that she's a narcissist, will groan inwardly about yet more me-again behaviour. And then the rest, who understand that she's a narcissist, will see it for what it is and express their disapproval in an evidence-based manner based upon what she is. Prince Harry, the article tells us, announced his memoir on Tuesday saying, "I'm writing this not as the prince I was born, but as the man that Harry's wife has told me to be. I've worn many hats over the years, yada yada, heard it all before." Newsweek has approached Harry and Harry's wife's representatives for comment on whether Harry's wife intends to write her own autobiography and is awaiting a reply. It's a pretty safe bet that she will do this. She believes that the world wants to hear everything that she has to say. She believes the world wants to know about the colour of her urine, what she ate this morning, what her thoughts are. Some of the world is interested, for reasons that I've explained beforehand, but the majority of the world is not, and would much rather that this self-interested individual who has nothing unique, nothing meritorious to say, doesn't have an original thought in her mind, would just disappear. But she's not going to, because her narcissism will not let that happen. Her narcissism will not let her disappear quietly because of the need to assert control to draw fuel to gain their character traits and residual benefits. And therefore, you can't make her go away, But what you can do is go away from her. The imposition of a no-contact regime, whereby by no longer reading anything that she writes, no longer watching anything that she's in, no longer subscribing to anything that she's involved with, you impose your own no-contact regime, and you remove herself from you, and therefore you don't have to suffer the banalities of her existence. And she will write that memoir. She cannot resist doing so, because her narcissism will drive her to do so. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.